Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rehash the Rolls. I have feedback audio coming from somewhere. I don't know where. So just check your stuff really quick, gentlemen. But welcome again, Rehash the Rolls. I'm your host, Erik Taylor, aka the Extraterrestrial, and I am here with the three of the wonderful cast members of the Ready to Roll campaign. I'm joined tonight by Braden, who plays Corvette.
Hello.
Luke is here, and he plays Drith.
What's up?
And Mike is here, and he plays Cadillac.
How's it going?
It's going well for me. I think everybody else during pre-show said they were doing pretty well. But besides that, let's jump into questions. We got quite a few tonight, so we're gonna push through and go. So our first question comes in for Braden this evening. Braden,
Hey.
Corvette was one of the few party members who did not accept the Katankov crest when it was offered, saying that he ought to represent his own house. But until now, he's been extremely reluctant to admit to anyone that he's a noble, let alone admit his last name. Is this signaling a change in his particular viewpoints?
That's a great question. So the reason Corvette first, why he really said no of kind of representing the Kontinkov house and stuff, was because he he wants to do good by everybody. That's his plan. He wants to help make Mortimer a better nation. That's what he wants. But specifically, he knows he has the influence and power to really hone in on the Southern Isles where he's from. And because he just knows the people there more, he realizes he would want to do more good for them than anywhere else. And so with that, and also being a representative of them, he feels like he needs to just make sure he's clear where his nobility loyalties lie. So that was the main reasons he said no to that.
Okay.
Still is wary about that second part is interesting. Still is wary about who he tells his ancestry to, because as people have found out, as he's expressed a little bit, he does not like his father very much. His father's not a great man. He's not an honorable man, we'll put. And so he is very nervous to be seen as part of him, related to his father as much, versus until he has the opportunity to be his own individual, his own influence, without his kind of father's peerage.
Okay, so that feeds into the second question. The second part of this question, that is Corvette thus more attached to his house, to his family name, than he lets on, but ashamed of his father?
Yes.
Okay. Very simple answer. I like simple answers.
There you go.
Indeed, he is. Moving on. Okay, yes. So we'll go to the next question. All right, so 3 years ago in Polograd, the sacrifice of breath took place 3 years ago, right? Sacrifice of sight was just completed in Cordovan. Do you and your characters, this is a general question for all three of you, think other sacrifices may have already been completed? We're gonna throw it to Luke first, just so I can make sure and get everybody's answers.
Yeah. I would definitely say, and speaking as Drith as well, that there has been something else has happened, and the reason that the logic behind that is that it feels like we were all gathered together and summoned as if to combat a great evil. And so we were summoned so that, I imagine this is how I think of it if I was telling the story. But I would imagine like some kind of evil thing took place, then all of a sudden, like, the higher powers or whatever understand that, okay, we got to have some heroes here to help solve the problem, and then we all get thrown together and are called in to save the day, more or less.
Okay. So it is your stance, both as Luke and as Drith, that other sacrifices in this chain of requirements have taken place already.
Yes, which is why Drith feels a sense of urgency to get things done, because we don't know if that was the next to last sacrifice or whatever else.
Yep, and that's the follow up to the question: is do you then feel a major sense of urgency because of this? So, Mike, let's turn it to you and to your perspective as well as Kadiok's perspective, right? Because they don't necessarily have to be the same. You know that over the past period of time, it doesn't seem like there's a statute of limitations on these rituals. So they just seem to need to eventually check off the box, right? It's a bucket list of sacrifices. Do you, Mike, feel that other sacrifices have already taken place? And does Kadiok operate under the impression that others have?
So I would say that me as a player and as Mike, I do not think that any other ones have been completed yet. This is partly because, if I'm remembering correctly, when we learned about the sacrifices, it did go breath and then sight, so there might be a linear order there, and it seems to take a while in order to prep each of these sacrifices. However, as Kadiok, I think that, or he would think, there has been at least one more, because that was the second one he thinks would have been failed somehow, which was what triggered the taking of all of the party members and dumping them in Plague Road, as well as the fact that his encounter with Maeve and Podara's encounter with her elder is a bit of reactionary to whatever has been happening.
Okay, so we do have some discussion going on in chat, which if you're watching this in the recap on YouTube, you can't see. But Lydia is in chat, plays as Alania, and she says that in her notes, it's not 1, 2 in those orders, but she admits she may have taken them down incorrectly. So it will be interesting to see as this progresses if, A, you've missed any, or B, if they are really a linear thing, or C, if Patrick just changes his mind and now you're on a vastly quicker doomsday clock than you expected, which is always possible when your players start making assumptions. But what do you think, Braden? Do you think that we're on 2, or are we not knowing, other machinations in the dark that have taken place?
Yeah, I think Braden, and then like when Corbett sits down and thinks of what kind of at least transpired with this last one and what he knows about it, what started it with Vitaly and him killing his family. So I think Braden thinks there's like 4 of them are done. I think there's like at least 2 more done, but Corbett thinks there's at least 3 because of what he was telling Jelania, just about his history of when he went and back to his monastery, and just something overcame him and he murdered all of his people he grew up with, essentially. Yes, I did reveal that, guys. Only to Jelania, but hey, it's now public knowledge. So I think Corbett definitely thinks like he was one of them. He kind of did one of those things potentially, or at least he prepared the way, because maybe not necessarily you need a whole it felt like there's always a mass murder thing before each of them are complete. So maybe that one's not complete, but he did the mass murder part, which leads up to whatever comes.
Okay. Well, I think it will be interesting to see how A, that develops, but B, how when we finally achieve the end game of all of this and we sit down, we can ask Patrick in the future and say, hey, had they really only done 2 at that point, but then you changed your mind? Because, I mean, your entire comment about your mass murder makes a lot of sense, and maybe that wasn't the plan, but could be. We'll see. Moving on to the next question. Hjalta is Norsean and a member of Kadiak's same culture, if not necessarily the same tribe or path. What does he think about her surrender and her declaration? And how does he feel about the fact that her fate is seemingly in the hands of Jelania and her whims?
Okay, there's a lot there. So breaking it down, let's see. So first was the fact that she's Norsean. Yes.
Well, how does... So the first question is, how does Kadiak feel about Hjalta's surrender?
So he understands why she did it. He probably wouldn't have done it, but because of the, well, one, the path that she follows, two, the fact that she was being dragged down that path, to use his term, and three, just the entire situation with Padara, he is understanding of it and appreciates it.
So, okay, then how does he then feel about the fact that her fate is now seemingly in the hands of Jelania and whatever whim she feels on a given day?
He feels it's justified, frankly, because in his mind, well, you went and attacked the Katenkov home. You then surrendered yourself to the Katenkovs. If you betray the Katenkovs, you will die. He's like, that's pretty much standard logic as far as he's concerned.
Pretty cut and dry. Makes sense. Okay.
He comes from a bit rougher rougher idea of justice, just due to the fact that they are just not what's the word? The fact that they are much more in nature and dependent on trust and survival means that if you betray someone else, you are going to die if they have the chance. That's just how it is.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit more frontier justice to how Kadiak operates than, jury of your peers kind of thought process. So, makes sense. So, Drith went back on his own to thank Vitali for making him a champion of House Katenkov. Can you tell us a little bit about what this means to him as a character, especially with him being a foreigner?
So for Drith, it's the first time he has like an official designation of responsibility. It's the first time he's ever felt like, or he has a symbol now that says, hey, this guy is worthy to be trusted. This guy is on a mission and he has a purpose. So, and he's really enjoying that. So that's why he felt very obligated to go back and thank his benefactor in that sense.
Okay, so playing off of that and the concept that for the first time in his life, Drith feels a sense of purpose and this mantle of responsibility. What about the whole cosmic quest to save the world aspect that was dropped in his lap? Has he not felt a sense of purpose for the entire campaign since, showing up with a bunch of strangers to be, essentially children of prophecy.
I don't think Drith has really. There's a couple things at play here. First off, I don't think Drith really fully understands the scope. He knows like this. There's this some obscure like I'm going to help save the world, but I don't think it's really hit him yet. Like that, this is a real thing that he's going to accomplish. The second thing is that he has a very warped image of himself. He doesn't entirely believe that he was chosen. He's not convinced that his being there was a mistake, or wasn't a mistake, rather. And then as well, this is something that he feels like it's an actual like he has a physical token of this is my responsibility, which is something brand new to him.
All right. So let's because I can and I'm the host and it's my show. Let's dive a little bit into that comment then. If Drith feels it's a mistake, maybe, the targeting scanner of whatever divine being nabbed onto the wrong guy, right? Is he on a quest to prove that he wasn't a mistake? Does he feel this greater sense of responsibility to be more than he is? Or is he looking for a way out?
He is definitely looking for a way to prove himself, especially being in with people who, like, Jelania being of a noble birth, and Corbett being of a noble birth, and Piotr, who's had formal training, and Kadiak, who really knows his place in life. He as a wanderer, as I guess to go to his background, a hermit at this point, he really feels out of place. So he very much wants to prove himself. That's why when he took down the fire spirit with the tidal wave, it was a really big deal to him. If you notice, that's also the first time, like after we got back from that whole encounter inside of the mural or whatever. He actually went after Anya when she left, and it's because he felt like he had confidence, or rather, he had confidence enough in himself to take that kind of action.
Okay, so does Drith still look at, as we've coined the term, these children of prophecy, and feel like an outsider? Or, or are these his friends? Are these, it's obvious he cares about them, right? Like, that's not the question. Does Drith view himself, does he feel that they care about him to the same extent, right? Does he feel valuable to them? Or does he still look himself as the guy standing outside the fire when it comes to this group of people?
Still very much like the guy standing outside the fire, but he does feel welcome in terms of like he knows that he can turn to them for anything, and he'll always go to Corvette or Piotr for help and how to address a social situation that he has no idea about. But he still feels very much like an outsider.
Okay. All right. So let's ask a similar question to the other two. Do you, not as players, because obviously you guys have developed a friendship and you all view each other, but do your characters view Drith as an outsider?
You or me, Mike? I'll go. Okay. Corvette views Drith not as an outsider of the party, of their friend group that they've kind of built. He definitely thinks Drith is just part of them, but he views Drith as an outsider of definitely like, oh, you don't know our culture, you don't know kind of the things that are going on in our nation here, like all of that. He's like, okay, I've got to make sure he kind of knows what's going on as we keep going. But as a part of like their group, Corvette thinks of Drith as just like another good friend, someone that's just like he's like always been there for like everybody randomly. It's super fun to think about. It's like, oh, just always there supporting everyone. Um, and so anyway, Corvette doesn't think of him as an outsider in that regard.
What about the more brusque and pragmatic Kadiok? You are muted, Mike. Or not making noise. One of the two.
Okay, is that better?
Yep.
Okay, I had a pop-up in the background apparently. So my spacebar was not actually working. But Kadiok views Drith very much as a little brother. It's been revealed, I think, a few times now that Kadiok has a lot of siblings. He is one of 13 siblings. And Drith very much reminds him of one of his little brothers. And he considers Drith to be the person he needs to protect and help shelter or guide the most in this current journey that he's on, due to the fact that he does seem naive but has gone through a ton of crap. And so that was part of why Kadiok made special effort to give him the Vorpal Bunny head mug, and trying to teach him more, and he tries to make sure that Drith will be okay, even if Kadiok can't be there to, literally step in front of whatever is coming at him.
Okay. So that brings us to a question that's in chat, and we'll cover it just for the YouTube audience. If there are 13 siblings, where does he fall in the order?
He is the 7th kid, so he is the dead middle.
Okay, so not the oldest. Answers your question, LMF. Okay,
Yeah.
let's ask another question here. Does your characters enjoy having downtime? Did you find that they had the ability to relax during the downtime, or did they find themselves getting antsy due to the go 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 pace that they'd been living in their new role for the period of time that they had been? Start with Mike this time.
So, due to the cyclical nature of hunter-gatherer and nomadic society anyway, Kadiok felt right at home, because oftentimes you are, if you're part of a raiding party, you are traveling brief moments and period of time of frantic attacking, raiding, getting out, and then you're traveling again. So for him, he's like, okay, great. We have had, it's been a hectic time, and then we did some traveling, and then another hectic time, and now we are no longer traveling, but we are in downtime. And so he was very appreciative and felt right at home. He was able to jump right back into all of the crafting projects and things he does to enjoy himself in his downtime. I'm sure viewers have noticed that he has been working on a few things that I haven't, actually announced what he was working on to the party yet. That is forthcoming, but Kadiok is very much a crafty person and has been enjoying the time that he's had to make things.
What about you, Braden? How did Corvette handle downtime?
Probably was pretty good with it. I mean, he's used to relaxing when he wants to. But with everything that's been gone on, there was always kind of something eating at him, just unsettling. So it wasn't a full like break. It's like okay, there's things I got to do, or even just like trying. He was trying to allow himself to rest or relax or settle down by getting back into writing again. And so I think it was pretty successful, but he always had just like a okay, what's next? Like, what's gonna happen next? Because my life has been just ridiculous the past like month and a half.
Makes sense. Well, and as you mentioned earlier, in response to one of the questions, Corbett operates in a world where he thinks numerous more of the overall rituals have been accomplished. So to him, the doomsday clock is a little bit closer to that 11th hour than some of the other party members are operating. So some amount of anxiety there could be understood. What about Drith? How'd Drith do with downtime?
Drift thrived. Yeah, he just sat in the field and meditated for 8 hours and made the plants grow all great. They're gonna have the best year of corn they've ever had. And he enjoyed, working on his chess game, which unfortunately he doesn't know the rules of. But his version of chess, he's getting really good at. So he really enjoyed it.
All right. We'll jump to the next question. Braden, how well do you feel Artyom followed the advice he received from Corbett?
From is this in regards to going to talk with Jelania and listening and that advice? I'm assuming.
Lydia can maybe tell us in the chat
we'll
if
go
that's
for
what
it.
she intended.
Well,
yes, that's what Lydia says she means.
The first thing is no, because he said don't go talk to her right now, and he went and talked to her right now. He definitely was trying. So, it's just Artyom can just be so straightforward and yeah, and that's hard to get out of his system apparently. But I'd say on a 1 to 10, he followed it at like a 5, just like right in the middle. Like he did better. But there's some things he definitely did.
That's still a failing grade. Unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do a couple of quick fire questions, just really, really fast. So I'm just gonna fire off a question because they're kind of pretty solid, quick answers. And just for entertainment value, I just want you to go with what's right off the top of your head and just say it really quickly. Luke, how's the flute carving coming?
Poorly.
All right. Mike, what is the Norsean view on surrender?
Depends on the tribe.
That is the worst quickfire question response ever. We'll come back to that. Okay, so let's do this again. Mike, what is the Norsean view of your tribe on surrender?
Don't do it unless you have had literally all your limbs cut off and you have no other choice.
Just at that point, death is preferable. Okay. All right, so we're going to do it this way for this last one. Gentlemen, I'd like you to close your eyes. Luke, who in the party is Drith closest to?
Corbett.
Why?
He really looks up to him as an older brother.
Okay. Mike, who in the party is Kadiok closest to?
Probably Drith.
Why?
Because he's been able to help out and protect him and try and make him feel home.
Okay. Braden, who's Corbett closest to?
Probably Jelania.
Why?
She's been the easiest to open up to, and feel like he wouldn't be looked at poorly for his life choices.
All right. We're going to end on the big, scary bombshell question, so we'll ask the bombshell question, and then we'll let you guys see if you have any questions for each other. But the anonymous silver face asks, do you have backup characters prepared for when Morphus makes his triumphant return?
No.
No. But maybe some thoughts.
Yes, because
My answer is yes.
I have a horrible, horrible track record with my characters dying, especially in Patrick's games.
I'm gonna come back as Drith's dad.
Yikes! Just gonna come back as the epitome of pure evil. He's just helming up Morphos's return. Let's be real here. Okay, so quick fire interview question one last time. Who in the party does your character struggle to trust the most, Corvette?
RTM.
Caveat.
Artyom.
Sure.
Piotr.
All right. And with those sweet, sweet bombshells to carry you through questioning until next time, we're out of questions. So we're going to do our quick outros here. Remember, Ready to Roll, the main campaign, appears here on twitch.tv/homebrewhall every other Wednesday. It alternates with this show, Rehash the Rolls. So be sure to come and stop by. If you miss an episode, you can catch it on YouTube. And it's good to catch it either place. Also, even if you don't miss the episode, you should go watch it on YouTube and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel anyway, because algorithm. Also, share it with your friends. If you know people who play D&D, tell them about it. If you know people who like good stories, tell them about it. Word of mouth grassroots advertising is the best way to advertise for shows like this. So please do that as the fans and supporters of the show. I would like to thank my guests, Mike and Braden and Luke, for coming on and letting me grill you with some questions. As a reminder, you can catch Lydia's short-term show, Eldritch Noir, every other Saturday. So not this coming Saturday, but next. And those reruns are also on YouTube. Who does Erik trust the least, Little Miss Fodder? Piotr. And I have been your host, Erik Taylor, aka The Extraterrestrial, and you can just find I do gaming kind of documentary stuff on YouTube, as well as some podcasts, and you can find that over on youtube.com/extraterrestrialgaming. If you haven't followed all of the Twitch channels associated with Homebrew Hall, which is Homebrew Hall, Lydia or Not, or Morgan, whatever number, I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm the worst. 06? Yeah, Morgan06. Please go and follow those channels. But for now, I have been Erik Taylor, and on behalf of Luke, Mike, and Braden, good night, good luck, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see all of you next time. Peace on Earth, Earthlings.